Hello, my name is Kat, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about fundraising as a job. Um, so, first of all, you may be asking, well, what is fundraising? Maybe you have already fundraised for a charity. For example, maybe you did a sponsored fast or a sponsored walk or run, and you raised money for the charity. And that's really, really wonderful. And you've been helping and being helped by somebody in an office, and they were a paid professional fundraiser who perhaps organized that event. But I know that it can seem a little bit mysterious how it works. So I wanted to share that with you today and to show that actually fundraising is a job that many people do. And it's something that we can do if we have studied many types of subjects, or if we haven't done more than GCSEs, everything is possible. So yes, I'm going to be speaking to you about paid fundraisers who are paid by charities to raise money for the charity. There are different types of fundraising. So for example, we can fundraise by asking a business for money, for example, to sponsor an event and they show their logo. We can ask trusts or foundations or wealthy individuals, and that's the job that I did, and I will speak a little bit more about that later. We can ask individuals. So for example, maybe you have received at home a letter or with stickers or things like that, asking you for a donation of £2 per month to a particular charity, and that's the charity engaging you as an individual. Eventually, there is also fundraising for people to give money in their wills, so what's called legacy fundraising. There is events fundraising, so where, for example, a marathon, you run a marathon or something like that, and you raise money for the charity and give the money to the charity, and somebody organizes that, and that's events fundraising. And obviously, you know about charity shops, so that's another way. So charities find lots of ways to raise money, and there are people working behind the scenes to make all that possible. Like I say, fundraising is for charities, and charities can be many different things. We can think about large organizations like a hospital, that can be a charity. Perhaps parts of your town are run by a charity. Maybe the swimming pools are run by the charity. It happens in some towns and cities. But there are a lot of small independent charities. So if you are interested, you can always contact a local charity as a volunteer and say, I'd like to help you. And that's the wonderful thing about working with charities is they are voluntary organizations. They're always looking for volunteers. So you can help them on a practical level by helping run a Saturday. For example, I volunteered on a Saturday morning, helping young children have a moment to play. Or equally, I volunteered in the office helping with fundraising. So that's the wonderful thing. It's easy to get involved. Okay. What do we need to be a fundraiser? Well, really, I think we need to care. I think that's the big thing, really. If you care about a particular subject, then that's a really big start. After that, it's about communicating, being able to communicate what the charity does and being able to get other people involved in what you are doing. That's the key thing. I spoke earlier about there being many different types of fundraising, and so each type of fundraising has different personalities who are attracted to it. So, for example, I like writing, and so writing application forms, that was something that I could do, and I don't know if I totally always enjoyed writing application forms, but it's something I could do, and it seemed to work well. But others will be involved with events or individuals, and there it's a lot more about being able to talk, being able to get on well with people, and enthuse them to run for you and do things for you. So, if however you like to communicate, then there will be a type of fundraising that would fit with the way that you like to communicate with people. Uh, I've worked with people from many sectors. So I've worked with people who were ballet dancers before. I've worked with people who were accountants before. So there is no particular studies that need to be done. Obviously, as we go up, it's good. It's obviously education is always really, really important, but there are no particular exams that need to be taken. There is the Institute of Fundraising, who of course can help you to learn more, but it's not essential. As I say, at the core, the charity sector is a voluntary sector, and the passion starts from there. So what I wanted to say next is, well, why do we raise money? Sometimes it's for very specific things, such as a hospital may wish to open a new building so that they can help people who have a particular illness get better. So it's very practical, and they need to buy beds and equipment. So then you're asking for money for very practical things, but sometimes it can be more to help the charity do what it does already, and to pay for the salaries, including your own in the end. And also sometimes, in fact, sometimes the country asks charities if they want to provide a service for the country. So the charity obviously has to put in an application to say that they could do that well, and how they could do that. But that might be, for example, if let's say in a city we need a homeless shelter and food for homeless people, then the government say, okay, we pay the money for that, but we want a charity to do that. So then the job of the fundraiser is to write the application to say that they will do that. That's another form of fundraising, but it's another way that money is received. So there are many reasons why we want to raise, a charity wants to raise money. I worked especially with trusts and foundations, charitable trusts and foundations. So they are organizations that are run by wealthy individuals. For example, Bill Gates has a foundation, and he puts money into, like, for example, malaria research. And there are also companies that have foundations. We don't always know about them. For example, if we think about the shop Primark, the shop Primark is part of a bigger group, and that group is ultimately run by a charitable foundation. It's called the Garfield Weston Foundation, so when we go in the shop, we don't really know that at the end it's a charity that is at the head of that company. But as a fundraiser, we can get in contact with that foundation, and if we have a project that we think they would be interested in, then we can speak to them about it. So I'd like to speak a little bit more now about a day in the life of a fundraiser, and specifically someone who writes applications such as I did. So let's say first thing in the morning, we meet the teams who are providing services to the people, or if it's an animal charity, the animals that are being helped by the charity. And that's a great way to understand what the charity is doing and what it's doing today and what its needs are for the future. And we can look with our own eyes, we can ask questions to understand how can this service continue and how can it be even better. After that, so you may come back to your desk, and then we start to research who could fund it. So there are websites, for example, the Directory of Social Change is an organization that collects a lot of that information. And so there are websites where we can search and see, what funders are there and what are they interested in funding. After that, we'll have a cup of tea. And then after that, we think about, okay, how can I've looked at what the funder is interested in. I've thought about what the charity that I work at is doing. How can I mix the two together? Sometimes we have to explain the charity's work in a certain way so that it's really clear to the funder that it's interesting to them. After that, once we feel confident, then we can get in touch with the funder. This was something I always felt nervous about, but it's always good to do, to pick up the telephone, because at the large foundation you will speak to also people whose job it is to organize that. At the end, all charities are run by what we call a board of trustees, who are volunteers, and so it is the trustees who will decide normally at the end if you get the funding or not. But we can speak to people on the phone, and then we have an idea. Is it going to maybe work? Okay. Well, after that, a good lunch to feel a little bit better, and then with lots of energy, we come back after lunch and we write the application. In an application, we need to give detail. Sometimes it's a letter, sometimes it's a form, but essentially we need to show how we can how the funder can help the charity. So showing that connection of the funder and the charity that we spoke about earlier, but also how can the charity help the funder? Because the funder, like I said, they have things that they want to achieve. For example, they may say, like Bill Gates with malaria, he says, I want to, stop people being ill with malaria. So we have to show that we are the organization that can do that. So then this can take some time. Sometimes it takes that process can really take weeks. We need to really be sure that we've done the right thing. Eventually, hopefully we've done that, and later in the day maybe we get the results from another application. So then we're happy if we get a good letter, and that's always the reward, obviously, to know that the charity can continue to do its work or to do new work. And so then we send a thank you to the donor, Yeah, it's a really satisfying part for everybody that there's been a really good connection between the funder and the charity. Finally, we need to get in touch with the program, the service who you fundraised for in your charity. And you speak to them, you explain you've had the money, how much money you've had, what you've promised to the funder, and what they need to deliver. Then the final part is later on. So imagine it's a little bit, imagine at the end of the day, we've done that. And then once more, there's been a project that's been a success. You've done all the work. And then we send an update to the funder and we tell them, okay, you gave us money a year ago. This year, with your money, we have been able to do this. And that gives you an overview of the funding cycle. So as you can see, it's really the fundraiser's job is to understand the needs of where they work and to understand the needs of those who fund and to bring the two together. And as I said at the beginning, it's really about being able to communicate in the way that you feel most comfortable, with passion, and it's really rewarding because you know that people or animals, if it's animal charity, are going to be helped, because charities are there for those who especially need help and are not getting it elsewhere, and also that your colleagues continue to have a job, and that they can use all the skills they have to really help other people, and to be part of that is really rewarding. As you can imagine, we have to sometimes be patient and sometimes be a little bit brave because we don't always get the results. But sometimes what I find is if we put the energy in, we always get something back. Not always in what we expect. So we could do a big application, spend a lot of time, and maybe it's not successful. But then another one comes where we feel like, oh, I wasn't expecting much from that. And voila, it's that one that gives you the results. So so the energy is never wasted, but it's always a surprise how things work out. Well, so I hope from there that's giving you a little idea about how charities are funded, the different jobs that exist in fundraising, and finally, what a typical day in the life of a trust or foundation fundraiser looks like. After that, there are similarities, obviously, with other types of fundraising. It was just I gave my experience for that. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I say, don't hesitate to get in contact with a local charity. It's definitely going to be a rewarding experience. All right, thank you. Bye.